Next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka, weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Brotherly Love Spice, Representative Ilhan Omar of the Socialist Spice Girls, her daughter, who attends Barnard College, $100,000 a year, one of the seven sisters, she was arrested, and then she was suspended, apparently, for taking part of this encampment on the campus of Columbia University to support Hamas and Iran and other enemies of the United States, to wish death upon America. You know, the usual stuff that the offspring of the wealthy and powerful are engaged in. And now she says she's homeless.
And
she's been evicted from campus housing, banned from using the dining hall. She's going to starve on the streets of Columbia University.
She says she has nothing to eat, Dan, and nowhere to live.
Mm-hmm.
And they zip-tied her for 7 hours.
It's a good start. Also, UPS executive daughter, UPS is a UPS executive's daughter, who killed an elderly couple in a crash as a teen. She was among those in the anti-Israel protest. Also, a Letitia James intern. Just an intern? Where was Letitia James herself? Alvin Bragg, too, for that matter. The whole crew. By the way, it's not just for Columbia. Columbia is getting all the ink, but I'd like to expand the circle, if I might. Yale. Lot of pro-terrorist undergrads at Yale. Like, here's one offering a rap in the face of a Jewish student as the mob, looks on campus for Jewish students to harass.
These souls about to get wavy. Israel. Israel. I am mobbing up some Palestine. Free Palestine. Israel gonna die. Same land, why you out here trying to rob it? Profits, y'all just want the profit. Throw the book and they went ahead and conned it. Step with caution. They know what the options.
It's not the same, not being able to hear all the expletives, but I think you get the gist. It's less than complimentary. More from Yale. This is where the mob takes down the American flag with a bunch of honkies in keffiyehs celebrating and ululating.
Viva, viva Palestina!
You just got to hear that at the end. What is needed, the coup de grace, to top off a fun pro-terrorist rally party on the campus of Yale? You had the rapping and accosting of Jewish students. You had the Death to America, take down the American flag, dress up, play dress up in the garb like you're a member of the Islamic Jihad.
Right.
And what you really need, though, to top it off, I should say, well, you need the drag sermon, the drag queen sermon.
Oh, okay.
So it was
They're
quiet
involved in
time.
this now too?
Quiet time, and all the terrorist sympathizers got together in the steps of one of the buildings and listened to some dude in drag who goes by the stage name of Tifa Wine offer this, I would say heady, but it's just like a bunch of Marxist newspeak strung together so this person's attempting to sound intelligent. But listen to this, and this went on for like 6 minutes. Come on, man, how about just a pithy Death to America chant already?
Yet institutions like Yale maintain onto the mythology that real pedagogy lives here. Criticality thrives here, and that the colonial classroom can be a site of ongoing self-making. There is no place for academic freedom when dispossessed lives are on the line. We do not need to enroll at Yale to seek real pedagogy, for we all know that Palestine, Palestinian voices, and the Palestinian struggle has become one of our greatest teachers in theorizing what it means to be resilient in the face of unimaginable dehumanization and pain.
Nothing like a dude in a sequin dress saying pedagogy 6 times in 90 seconds. At Northwestern University, my alma mater.
Oh, yes.
You know what happens when if I'm talking about Northwestern, that means it's in the news, which means what?
The value of your degree goes down.
Correct. The dean of students at Northwestern attended an anti-Israel protest on campus this week that was targeting Hillel. They want the university to end its relationship with the Hillel Community Center on campus. Yeah, obviously, of course. And stop associating with the Zionist organizations and so on and so forth. And, of course, Michael Schill is a pathetic small little man, so he can't stand up to this nonsense. And I mean, they have the right to say whatever they want, but I mean, this sort of like a moral equivalence, right? The Pontius Pilate routine here. And really, it's not even Pontius Pilate, because there's essentially tacit support for these illiberal forces on campus. And by the way, nothing new at Northwestern. When I was there 30 years ago, the BDS movement was already alive and well in Northwestern. I did an alternative to the daily paper with largely other Jewish students, Jewish conservatives, who are now like, brain surgeons and neurologists and stuff. And I was the weak link in that intellectual herd, obviously. But the anti-Semitism was rife on campus back then. It took different forms, but nothing has changed. It's just more people are aware of it now. And because of social media, more people are aware of it more quickly. But like the seeds of what you see at Yale and Columbia and Northwestern were planted generations ago.
Okay.
And I just don't think people appreciate that. All right, for more on all of this, there's a lot. We're pleased to be joined again by our friend Liel Leibovitz, who is with Tablet Magazine. He is the editor-at-large for Tablet. He joins us now. Liel, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hello, friends. I'm also a survivor of Columbia University.
That's right. I forgot you were a professor there, so you know this student body well.
Sadly, I do. Look, Dan, I think the last comment that you made is actually crucial. People look at this, and they ask this question that every normal, mother and father or student in America asks, hey, how could this happen suddenly? And the thing to realize here, it didn't happen suddenly. It happened over 30, 40 years. It's the result of a deliberate plan by lawmakers, by so-called intellectuals, by political operatives who hate America, to basically create these, madrasas in the heart of American cities and indoctrinate our children.
Right, and it seems to be going quite well. I mean, for them, yeah, and yet, despite the big flourishes that led to the ouster of Claudine Gay and the University of Penn president, and so on and so forth. I mean, you're right back to it. I mean, it snaps back that fast. This is so ingrained that a couple of heads rolling professionally will not change the landscape.
I think the only thing that would change the landscape are two beautiful English words: defund and deport. First of all, a large cushion to people. Yeah, you mentioned rightfully so, because it's the most kind of unbelievably enervating thing to understand. All of these children of immense wealth and privilege who are cosplaying, revolutionaries and waving anti-American and anti-Semitic flags. But quite a few of the people who we see behind these rallies, and again, let's remember that Columbia's acceptance is 3.8%, which means that these people were specifically chosen, an immensely large foreign student body population. We have simple laws on the books that say that if a foreign student comes here with a visa, we love this, we encourage this, we want everyone to come here and enjoy our fine, world's best educational institutions. But if you're going to come here and cheer for a terrorist organization, we have laws in the books to kick you right out. These laws need to be utilized. And second of all, we need to tell universities, basically all of which use or receive public funding, that if you do not stand up to this kind of absolute insanity, you will lose every last cent that you have in federal support.
Yeah, I mean, DeSantis has said something to that effect with respect to where he has some
Sure.
sway. That would be the state of Florida and state universities there. But it seems to me that even if you did that, you did attach consequences to this disturbing behavior. And I'm not saying that you don't do this, but I still think that will only result in that crew coming over the top, and it will. The only thing that would be good about that is I think it forces the hands of the administrators if something like that happens, and then they have to choose sides because so many are trying to pretend that they're not choosing sides, even though they essentially are by deference.
I think that's completely correct. Look, if we're being honest about it, and this is a sad and difficult thing for many Americans to hear and understand, especially so many of us have always come to see college, or at least for the last 40, 50, 60 years, come to see college as this great big engine of upward mobility. But that means I tell my they're 12%. I tell them 3 times a week, you are never going to college because I'm not going to pay $250,000 and waste 4 years for mutually accredited mediocrities to turn you into Nazis. It's just not going to happen. I think step one is to really build, alternate institutions, and some of them may be universities, like the University of Austin, Texas, which my friend Barry Weiss and others are helping to build. Some of them may be, professional schools to make sure that we actually have tradesmen who know how to make things and fix things here in America. And some of them may be completely radically new approaches to education. But we could begin. These are very large societal, sea changes. But we could begin right here at home by doing exactly what you said, Dan. Like hold these administrators' feet to the fire, and not by firing one mediocrity and replacing them with another DEI-approved mediocrity, but by actually making the university obey the law.
So, what would you do if you're a Jewish student right now at Columbia or at Yale? I mean, at Columbia, they're learning remotely today. And I just, wouldn't you fear for your safety, and would you stay at either of those places?
I would leave immediately. I am frankly completely overwhelmed to try and understand why there is still a single Jewish student at Columbia. Look, Jews sadly are still somewhat traumatized by the Holocaust, understandably so. And the question that we always like to ask is, well, if the Nazis come again, what will people do? Will they rise? Will they resist? Will they protect us? You got the answer in Columbia University right now. It's not just the radicals at the encampment. It's the fact that not a single professor, not a single student stood up and said, this is absolutely revolting. Not in my name. I refuse. Give me back my money. No one did that, which as a student should tell you that you're surrounded by, moral monsters, and the level of actual education that you're getting in this place is worthless. And if the only thing they have to offer is some dwindling amount of prestige, hey, that's just not good enough reason to put your life at risk. Leave.
Yeah, Jewish students, Jewish people are literally being poked in the eye. Miss Israel literally being, her eye blackened by these protesters in New York. I mean, it's I don't know. It's pretty stark. It's the sort of the question I ask about Chicago all the time. I mean, what exactly is confusing to you about what is happening? I wanted to get your reaction to something else. This sort of two sides of the mouth type of approach that the Biden administration is taking with respect to Israel. On the one hand, moving, along with, of course, Republicans, moving aid for Israel in the ongoing war against Hamas, and mouthing the words of support for Israel's right to defend itself. And then the report is that animatronic Anthony Blinken expected to announce within days sanctions against the IDF battalion of the IDF for human rights violations in the West Bank. So how do you suss that out?
You know, there's an old kind of Arab folk tale about two birds. They're watching a hunter, and he's killing birds, and it's so cold, so his eyes are tearing up. And one of the birds says to the other, "Look what a good man he is. Sure, he's killing the birds, but he cries over it. It gives him a great deal of suffering to take lives." And the other bird says, "Don't look at his eyes. Look at his hands." I think with the Biden administration, you shouldn't mind anything that these people are saying. You should mind what they're doing. And here's what they're doing. They're pushing Israel to, quote-unquote, cease fire when we still have 133 civilians, including 2 babies, held captive by this beastly terrorist organization for 199 days. They're pushing Israel to build special construction so that we could drop more and more aid, knowing full well that the aid is seized by this terrorist organization that is only going to use it to inflict more suffering, not only on Israelis and Jews, but also on Palestinians. And now they're coming up with complete trumped-up charges because, God forbid, there will be one side that's morally correct and one side that's morally evil. We don't believe in good and evil. We have to create a semblance of, a cycle of violence and mutual responsibility. And so now we have to sanction the Israeli army as it's trying to defend itself. It is completely reprehensible. And honestly, at this point, any Jewish person who supports the Democratic Party is operating out of reasons that I simply can't understand.
Liel Leibovitz is the editor-at-large for Tablet, tabletmag.com. Tabletmag.com is the website. Liel, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Worried about inflation, digital currencies, political turmoil, and the future of your investments? It's time to take control with Conservative Wealth Protection Group. During these times, central banks are buying gold and precious metals at record levels. But the question is, are you? With access to the cheapest bullion in the nation, we have